and welcome to episode 94 of the HaskinCast Podcast. As promised, here is the second half of the interview with Shondra Jepperson. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the first half. She's very, very engaging and very intelligent and really funny too. So hopefully you enjoyed that and you're back here to listen to the other half. If you're listening to this half first, feel free to stop, go back and listen to episode 92, and you can hear the first half of the interview. I just found a good place to cut it and chop it, so we're going to jump right back into the conversation. Before I do that, I'll just remind everybody, please take a moment and rate the podcast on whatever avenue you choose to listen to podcasts, whether it be Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Podbean. I can't remember all where I am now, but rate it if you would like, review it. If you have feedback, please feel free to write me at scott@scotthaskin.com. And if you'd like to donate to the podcast, that would be much appreciated. You can go to my website at www.scotthaskin.com and then click on the podcast link, go to the donate button at the bottom. That will link you to PayPal. If you would like to use an alternative method to pay, just give me a shout at scott@scotthaskin.com. I know I ask for this every week, but it really helps, the more reviews, the more star ratings you get. It helps get the word out to other people if they're kind of on the fence of whether they want to take a chance and listen to an episode. The more positive things that people say about it, it encourages people to listen and maybe tell somebody else who then will be encouraged to listen. And that is how you grow an audience. And for those of you who have been my audience or who are just coming to the show today, thank you so much for taking time to listen. For those of you who have shared, who have told others, who have already rated and reviewed, thank you all so much. It really means a lot to me. What would be the point of doing it if there was no one there to listen? So thank you guys very much. And here is the second half of my episode interview with Shondra Jepperson. Speaking of voices and accents, among the many things that you do that are awesome, you are a vocal instructor.
I am. I'm a coach.
How do you? Because you could do that from Skype, right? You could do anywhere in the world. You can teach people. Yes. Do you have do they have to have a certain level of skill before they're ready to take you on, or do you start from prenatal?
Well, I think that the first thing I like to do is I just like to know where a person is at. They do not have to be a skilled vocalist. I've worked with people who are just starting. I have worked with people who had a fear of singing because something happened to them in their life, but they always felt this pull to want to sing. It's amazing to me how many people have been put down by family or friends or some incident that happened when they were like 9. And they didn't utter a word singing wise for 40 years or 30 years. And I've been able to I've got several people that are actually singing professionally now who were like that. Mm-hmm. So I like working with those folks. I like working with kids a lot. I think there is such a thing as tone deaf, but I really do think that people can sing a lot more than they think they can. And a lot of it has to do with listening. So what I do is if I take a beginner and sometimes a professional too, who has some problems with pitch or whatnot, it's about listening skills. Right. So I kind of take all of it on. I really do. I also work with actors. Mm-hmm. I work with speakers, and I've worked with ministers. I've worked with voiceover artists because I do a lot of voiceovers. I work with people who are auditioning and need help with coaching with an audition. Mm-hmm. I've had people with me for 5 or 6 years. I've got 2 kids in particular, 3 actually, that are in law. One's in New York and 2 are in LA, and they're professional actors. And one of those kids, I just saw 2 of them. They kind of surprised me. They were here during the holidays, and I didn't expect this, but I went to lunch with one and the other showed up. It was outrageous. Mm-hmm. But I had one kid was with me at age 10 until he was 15. And now he just did a supporting role with Tom Skerritt.
Oh, very nice.
He played Tom Skerritt as a young kid. And I've had some really, really great students. And I've had people that didn't go into the business either, just wanted to express themselves.
Sure.
I've worked with songwriters too. I've worked with songwriters. I love teaching all that stuff. It is a passion for me because coaching somebody and really empowering them to embrace who they are, and to really explore that and to give them a feeling of safety. That is really exciting to me. It really feels like I'm making a difference there. It is one-on-one. Sometimes I've done classes. Deb and I have created a big program here called Sedona Youth Theater. I think it's on its 13th year this summer. And we have kids coming out and we teach them improv, and it's a 9-day intensive. I work with their voices. We both work with them with improv. They build their own show and we kind of go in and doctor it up. And it's good for the community. It's good for the kids. It's great for the library because we've worked it out with the Sedona Public Library that they get donations for all this, and we get paid too,
Sure.
And so it's kind of a win-win. But and I do coach. I do coach on Skype and have used FaceTime and all that good stuff. So I love doing that. It's really fun. And I've had a chance to work. We've got a public high school here outside of Sedona who is a state award-winning high school. They're amazing. It's like walking into Glee.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And they hire me to come in and work with the principal leads on musicals. And they've done some work that has blown my mind. They did Fiddler on the Roof. I've worked on 7 or 8. I think I've worked on 8 musicals for them throughout the last 5 years. And they just did Newsies. I worked on that. They were going to do Shrek this year. I'm going to work on that. But they did Fiddler on the Roof, and it was mind-boggling because the director there, it's a full blown-out orchestra. They use professionals and they use kids. The guy that does all the scenery, the guy's a complete professional, and he teaches them to do all that stuff, and their scenery is freaking amazing. They've got choreographers. You just don't see a high school doing this kind of production. So to be involved in that as the principal lead coach, oh my God, I love it. It's like so fantastic.
Yeah, I've done some work like that on the university level where where they have at least an 8 or 16 piece orchestra, but to do that in a high school, that's something that you really have to work hard to make that allowance.
Yes, and I have to tell you, these kids are talented. Sometimes I'm looking at the drama teacher who's in charge of all of this stuff, and he's amazing. And I just go, oh my God, where are these kids coming from? And it's just a pleasure. And so the coaching part of when I get to do that, I love that part. I really do. Yeah. And it just makes you feel good. You feel like you're contributing. I've had some amazing things come back around. Past students telling me things and honoring me. And it's wonderful. It's wonderful. Sure. You really are making a difference.
I have a question for you, but first I have to digress for a second and tell you how weird this is getting, because a couple of weeks ago on the show, I had my friend Rick Allen, who is a sound designer. And we were talking about different things that were done in movies. And one of the things that we talked about was the jet sounds in Top Gun and how the sound designer had manipulated them to make them more powerful. So just a couple nights ago, I was watching the film. And of course, I got all lost in the actual film and forgot to pay attention to the jets. But Tom Skerritt's in that film. So here I have this film I haven't watched in like 5 years. And I happened to watch it a couple nights ago. And now you're bringing up Tom Skerritt.
Yeah, I love it. I don't know, something's going on here.
Yeah, I had some friends that worked with Michael Ironside too, and said that he was just such a great guy to work with.
That's cool. That's really cool.
Well, my question for you, and obviously, I don't want to give away all of your secrets, but when you're on tour, you're going to a lot of different climates, places where the bacterias are different, the air quality is different. I've always wondered, for people that do this, and there's people that travel the world all the time. That's all they do. What is the secret to keeping your voice in shape and not becoming susceptible to your constantly changing environment?
Well, that's a good question, because I will tell you, it does happen. I mean, we did this tour in 2008. And we knew we had 29 performances. It's a lot in 3 weeks.
Now, was this was a United States tour?
Yes. Well, okay. It was in the state of Arizona. So we were all throughout southern Arizona. It was Tucson, Casa Grande. It was all throughout Phoenix, all the different areas, there's so many different places in Phoenix, as you obviously know. And so, and a little bit, we touched a little bit towards the border as well of Phoenix. So we were kind of like near California, but it was an hour and 18-minute show, just Tom and I as the singers. And the first thing that happened was we got sick.
Oh.
And the first show we did was for 750 people. It was first time we'd worked for this agency. And, it's a bit of stress when you've got a little bit of pressure there. But, we've been doing this for a while and you just kick into gear. And we did all of the things that you would do to take care of yourself. One of them is, it sounds so cliche, but is drinking hot tea, a lot of it with honey, staying away from all the stuff that would create more problems with your sinuses, like milk products and things like that.
Sure.
And also vocalizing, getting your voice into a certain place so that you know that you can sing over that stuff. Because I will tell you this, if you ride a horse long enough, you will fall off or something's going to happen. And it's the same with performing. If you're singing, and believe me, especially when you're singing 4.5 hours a night, 5 nights a week, like in the good old bad old days when I was doing that, something's bound to happen.
Oh, yeah.
And I always tell my students, now in a show situation, when you're touring, I just tell my students, you got to keep yourself in shape. You have to take care of yourself. You don't stay up all night long. You don't drink endlessly. You don't drink, you try and keep it to a minimum. All those things that can create your immune system from getting weakened, because when you are traveling to different areas, Phoenix, for instance, is extraordinarily dry.
Right.
And the more south you go, even up here, actually, in the high desert, it's very dry here. And so, and when you're working in different elevations too, you feel it. There's a difference if you're working in Flagstaff versus here. You're going to feel that pressure. You're going to feel it in your sinuses. You're going to feel it in your body and the way you breathe. And you just have to kind of take care of yourself. I mean, like really take care of yourself. So you have to be disciplined and you have to be focused and you have to, this is the way I look at it is it's your job. Yes, it is my passion. But when I am working for people who have paid money to come and see me, or even if they haven't paid, they're taking their time out of their lives to come for an hour and 18 or an hour and a half to come see me and my show. I damn well better be able to deliver the goods. And if I'm just irresponsibly doing whatever the heck I want to do, and I'm going to go snow skiing. Well, no, you're not going to go snow skiing in Flagstaff if you've got a show the next day, because God forbid you have a problem and you're not able to make that show. Well, that's problematic. So
right.
Yeah, there's sacrifice. And I think as far as temperatures and that kind of thing, you just have to take care of yourself. Mm. You have to be mindful of, and I think you have to be mindful about your attitude too, because that can affect your physicality as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, that's great advice. And it certainly makes sense. And is ginseng one of the things that you would say would be good, or peppermint?
Well, peppermint, I'll tell you what, I'm a big fan of Young Living essential oils. We're even distributors because we had some drastic thing happen back in 1996. And after that, we were sold. And we've been using those things ever since. And peppermint, great peppermint oil. And we use that often. And that can be used even internally. It's just pure peppermint oil. Mm-hmm. And there's nothing in it that's going to hurt you. And it's very different than the ones that are in the stores. No offense to anybody, but they kind of take things and put things in and take things out, some of those oils, not all of them. But Young Living Essential Oils is that's a great product to use. It's peppermint oil. Mm-hmm. And I've been known to put it in water and drink it. And, in a bottle of water, all you need is a couple of drops. It's really strong.
Yeah.
We're big fans of that. Ginseng, I don't really use ginseng so much. I haven't really had that much luck. I will tell you this, though. Young Living has a product called, I'm looking right at it, Super C chewables. And there's oils in them. And I eat that stuff like candy when I'm not feeling so great, or when I just want to keep my immune system up. Mm-hmm. I'm not trying to push Young Living, but if you want some, I'm a distributor.
But I can get you the order form.
I can get the order for you. Yeah. And yeah, right here, I can get you order. But no, but the thing is those are really good products. And again, you just have to kind of take care of yourself.
Well, I think that's it. If that's your main focus, hey, I've got 29 shows coming up. I better, I better get my rest when I can. I better really take care of myself. And then thinking about taking that to a more global thing where you're in Africa for 3 weeks and then you're in China and then you're that's a whole nother level of I really better take care of myself.
Yeah, because, you're traveling. You also are on an airplane with a lot of people.
Yes.
And there's a lot of, when I worked cruise ships for a while with my own shows, I was the show you would go see on Captain's Night. Okay. It would be like my show. Tom did that well. But I'll tell you what, when you're on a cruise ship and your show is 7 days in and you've got all these people coming in and you're sharing the same air, eventually it does get you.
Oh,
and
sure.
I've happened. And it's not fun. Those are the times when you just got to kick into gear and take care of yourself. And you have to take care of yourself. You really, really do. If you're traveling like you're talking about, you've got so many factors. Yeah. You're dealing with all the sleep deprivation and the hours, the change of times and the environments and the food and what you drink and everything, I just kind of think that it's probably best if you're going to do this for a living, you really have to be responsible. You have to understand this is your job and you wouldn't drink on the job, hopefully, and you wouldn't put yourself in harm's way if you knew you had work. You know what I'm saying? I'm talking about a real responsible job or any job, really.
Sure. Well, I just got this vision of, I don't know what era it was, if it was the 40s or the 20s, but the old acts that they used to do in the nightclub where the woman would be in the long dress and have the gloves and she would lay across the piano and sing and then go interact with the crowd. And I'm thinking every lap that she's sitting in is a sneeze waiting to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, I know, right? Let me tell you, working with kids, it's like every hand you hold, it's like, ah!
Oh, sure. Yeah.
It's a lot. And I've had so many different kinds of jobs in this business. I didn't know if I ever told you this, but do you know that you were talking to one of four at one time that knew the Dolphin Show was actually out there singing for 4,200 people a show. And I would turn around. So I would sing. There were like four of us rotating the show. Uh-huh. And this is crazy. This is a crazy gig. You're out there and you're announcing the show after you have warmed them up singing for about 10 minutes.
Are you talking about like SeaWorld or?
I'm talking about SeaWorld. This is a crazy gig. So I'm like, this is what I did for a whole year with with three other musicians. And there were only four in each SeaWorld had like four different people that knew that show as the warm up announcer. So basically I remember auditioning for that gig. It was a kicker. It's like, okay, you're going to go out there, you're going to take your guitar and you're going to warm up 4,200 people. That's what the stadium filled. It would fill up to 4,200 and sometimes more when it was like summer. And there's dolphins all around you and they're coming up and they're splashing at you if you look at them, because they want you to play. And you're going to entertain everybody, get everyone to sing along for 10 minutes. And then you're going to run around this lighthouse, throw your guitar up in the lighthouse, come back around. And now you're going to announce the show for the next 25 minutes.
Wow. And you're going to go through a lot of acoustic guitars because water and wood do not mix.
Well, I didn't. I found this guitar, which I still love. I just didn't want to use an expensive guitar. I was like, oh my God, this is scary.
Yeah.
But I really didn't have problems with that. What was interesting was just being in that environment and sometimes doing 7 or 8 shows a day in the summer. It was very intense.
Right.
But I just, I don't know what made me think of that. I don't know what that was. Thinking about working. I don't know. I was thinking about working with kids. And then I worked for SeaWorld a few different times in my career as a contract player. Huh. And that was a contract type situation. I wasn't an employee. I was a contracted act or whatever. And then we just learned, it's like, we were hired to warm up the crowd. It was like, oh, and we want you to announce the show too. Oh, okay. This is interesting. Being in an environment like that with trainers running and people that you're bringing up out of the audience and pretending to be surprised when one of the audience members who's actually a shill and a trainer from the audience falls in accidentally and all the funny and crazy and scary things that can happen.
Oh,
and
sure.
I've seen a lot.
When I was thinking about, you coming on the show, of all the things that I thought about we would, go over as topics, I never thought you singing with dolphins would be something that we would be
Right?
discussing. But that's actually kind of cool because not a lot of people have gotten to do that.
Well, you know what? I'm going to tell you, I could write a book.
Well, I think you should.
So many crazy ass things in this business on this side of the business. No, I'm not even at this moment. I'll put it this way. At this moment, this side of the business that I've been on I'm talking about you're basically in the trenches.
Yeah.
Doing all these things that people don't even have a clue what goes on behind the scenes. Like, nobody really knows what goes on around on cruise ships. I do.
Mm-hmm.
I know, and I was a guest artist. So it was a nice place to be in, a nice situation. It wasn't like I was working every night or I wasn't pounding, my voice all the time for hours and hours. It was just like, you're doing a show and then you're going to do it again. And then you're off for 5 days because you're the guest entertainer. So I've had some cushy jobs, but I've also had some very grueling jobs. And, it gets pretty grueling when you're doing 7 shows a day.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
As a warm up. And, and then I've also had those gigs where you're working and the place is completely empty. Mm-hmm. And then I've had gigs where I've worked for 12,000 people doing my own music. I've had some really outstanding jobs, and I've had some things where it make your hair stand up on end. What I've dealt with people really funny, they get, especially guys, sorry, but just women, sometimes women,
Mm-hmm.
But it gets pretty harrowing in situations. I've seen some things. So,
well, we were talking about that a little bit before we started recording the show, and you've seen a lot when you were working in the clubs, and of course you were young when you started working in the clubs. But what kind of problems or experiences were you having back then?
Well, when you're working in a club situation, what I found was they would just assume that they could do or say or touch you in any way they wanted to, or just do anything, say anything that they wanted to.
Right.
And I don't know if that's just being a female in the business. I think there is part of that. I started when I was 19. I was working as a single, and I started working in clubs where I had to leave during the breaks. And they started, it was like a couple of hours, happy hours. I kind of started doing that. And then I landed a job 5 nights a week, 4.5 hours a night. And my sets didn't even start until 9.
Oh, wow.
Really long haul to be doing all by yourself.
Oh, sure.
Really nice. This particular place was very, very nice in San Diego, although it could have a rowdy crowd. And, the more places you played, I'd have very interesting things happen. I mean, guys would just, I don't know how far you want me to take this, but guys could be really blue. Mm-hmm. I remember I hadn't worked for a single for a while, and I had my own bands at that time because I fronted bands, and I eventually had my own band, and we were working all the big clubs in San Diego. This was in the late 80s and the early 90s. I went back to one of the first places I ever worked as a single, and I remember working there, and usually it was really nice. But one night, this is crazy to even tell you this, this is just a little blue, so you'll have to put explicit on this.
Okay.
One night I'm out there and there was nobody in the room, and all of a sudden 3 guys walked in the room, and the bartender wasn't even there at that point. And they sat down right in front of me, and one guy just started to rub on himself, in front of me. They were like close. They were about 2.5 feet away from me.
Wow. That's bold.
And it was very bold. And they were younger. They were, these guys probably had to be, I'm going to say maybe in their mid-20s, late 20s, and laughing and loud and really just unpredictable. And I was in my 30s at that time, but so there wasn't a huge distance in our age, but there was a sense of danger because nobody was around. And I didn't, and you just have to kind of play that stuff off. I've had to, I don't know, I grew up kind of around guys because I wanted to be one of the guys, hoping that being one of the guys, they would accept me and not tease me or bug me kind of thing. So I kind of had that background. So I kind of knew a little bit how to deal with things. But working as a single, I remember working a place where it was a happy hour. This is again in the 90s. And I was working SeaWorld and I was working all these different places while I was doing that gig. So I would literally go set up on a break, like clear across the town, and then go back to SeaWorld and do a couple of shows and then leave there and then go to the club, let's say in Del Mar or whatever, a distance away from where SeaWorld is, and do 3 hours. Because if you're making a living at this, you're going to do all kinds of things. Well, I was working a happy hour once, and there was a big film crew that came in, and they were staying at the hotel nearby, and these guys were pretty rowdy. And so I knew what I was going to be up against, because they would get drunk, and then I knew that anything could happen. And there was this one guy who just had this perchance to always want to get on stage with me. Mm-hmm. And I remember one night or one day, it was like, happy hours, like from 5 to 8 or whatever, 5 to 7:30. And he got behind me and I'm playing, what are you going to do?
Right. And
you're just trying to figure out how this is going to work without pissing somebody off, but then taking care of yourself too. And, so there was all kinds of weird. I remember I gave Dev Ross an idea. She actually put this in a film script that she's got. And I was working a wonderful country club, and I was wearing a mini dress, and I was working with my own arrangements, playing guitar and singing, and the dance floor was packed. And there were some golfers there, and one guy had a golf club, and he was out on the dance floor, and he's just dancing, and everybody's dancing. And he decides he's going to take his golf club and he's going to try and lift my skirt with the golf club.
Oh, friendly.
Lovely. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. Not all the time, like these are far and in between. But the thing about that is that's the kind of stuff that can and does happen. People don't realize. They don't realize that you're up against stuff like this. It sounds crazy to tell you these stories, because you go like, that actually happened to you,
Yeah.
Like, that actually happened to me. Yes.
Well, I can't even understand why, you're in a grocery store and you're pregnant and some stranger comes up to you and starts touching your belly as if you have a sign that says, hey, I'll give you a quarter if you touch me. I've never understood why people feel that they have the license to do anything like that.
I don't know. I know in a situation of entertainment, I think when you're really close quarters with people, and there's alcohol involved, you've got problems here.
Well, yeah, but who's drunk at a grocery store? Well, there's probably plenty of people. I can imagine.
A grocery store with with a woman who's pregnant, I think that's just like that's like a boundary problem.
Well, yeah, because I mean, who's going to be the most protective person of their body is somebody who's carrying a child.
Exactly. Yeah.
Or well, you would think anyway. But it just I don't know. It always seems weird to me that people feel like it's appropriate to do any of that. I mean, the golf club thing.
That's crazy. Is that crazy?
Yeah.
I mean, like, who would do that, But again, you're talking about alcohol. I remember being on a stage, the last round of my bands, and we were playing this place. The place was absolutely packed. And I walked up to the manager and I said, "Great night, huh?" And he said, "Really? It's not a great night. They're not drinking."
Oh, right. Yeah, because he's not making money.
Yeah. And so the place was packed, was wall to wall, and people were dancing. It looked like people were drinking. And that's when I realized that I was not doing that kind of work. I was not in the entertainment business. I was now in the alcohol business. That's when it hit me. And I went, I got to get out of this. I got to get out of this.
But I think, I don't think that's necessarily the right perspective. And I mean, obviously you've lived that and I haven't. Well, I have, because I played in bars, but, you are in the entertainment business. Your client is in the alcohol business.
True. And you're subject to the fact that you may not have that work, because if they're not drinking, then they don't value your talent. I had my bass player at the time looked at me and said, "Shondra, it wouldn't matter if there's Michael Jackson up there. You're running around." That last round of bands was really high tech. It was like we were at about MTV. Mm-hmm. We were doing about 12 of my originals, but we were also doing a lot of cover stuff at the time. And, when he said that to me, I thought, God, he's right. I mean, the fact of the matter is, yes, it's entertainment, of course. And it's also being valued. I think that we want to be valued in what we do.
Oh, sure.
And it was that feeling of like, wow, I'm not valued in this environment, because it's more about who's drinking as versus who's enjoying themselves. And so that's when I needed to get out of clubs. And I did. I quit my own band. I said, I'm disbanding.
Yeah.
I'm going. Bye. Have fun.
Well, I would say it's possible, depending on what set of eyes you want to look at it from. But you could say that if they are drinking, they're not respecting your music because they have to have something to enhance their state of mind. Whereas when I go to a show, everybody around me might be dancing or headbanging or screaming or whatever they're going to do. I actually am probably the most awkward person to be in front of a band because I don't really move. I'm watching the show. I'm listening to the music. I'm soaking it all in. I stand there very politely. I'll clap or cheer or whatever at the end of a song. But while the performance is going on, I paid money to go see this show. I'm only going to get to see this band once every 2 years, 3 years, however long their tour circuit is. I want to enjoy and soak up every little bit I can. If I'm drinking, I'm not hearing things properly. My vision is going to start getting distorted. My memory certainly isn't going to be right. I think it's more disrespectful to be drinking than it is to not. But you're there at a bar and they're going to expect that, hey, you're taking up a table. You better be making me money. Otherwise, why are you here?
Right. And it's different when you're doing shows.
Yeah.
I do shows now. I don't do clubs. It's interesting. I am taking a little thing I'm going to do on Sunday. Really fun. It's like standards type music. And I love these guys. They're very sweet guys. And so I'm going to do something like that. But I haven't been working clubs because club work is different than shows. People are there to see a show. They're positioned to see a show. And they have paid money to come in. It's not just drinks. When Tom and I do a show or Deb and I do a show, or I'm part of a group called the Dynamite Divas, when we do a concert, they're sitting and they're watching and they're not drinking. That's not, and if they have drank, it's usually with dinner. And now the show is after dinner. And so that is a completely different ballgame than working a bar or working a lounge or working, anytime that there's alcohol involved where they're really pushing you to drink, dance clubs, they were dance clubs is what I was working.
Right.
And long hours, 4 hours a night, that kind of thing, where it's not a show. They can watch if they want to, but the chances are it's loud. They were smoking in those days in the clubs. And so it's not a great, healthy environment at all. So that's what I meant. Like, when you look at all that and you're expounding that kind of energy and you're really, putting yourself kind of in harm's way in an environment like that, it's just not worth it. Plus, we're not getting paid that much, when you think about it, like, oh my God, I think about it now and I want to go, whoa, my Lord, even if you're working 3 or 4 nights or 5 nights a week, you're still not making the kind of living you need to.
Sure.
And, I remember one night I was working a place and Billy Joel walked in because he was doing a show at the sports arena in San Diego. And his whole group walks in, right? And we had a chance to talk to them. And the drummer, great drummer, he looked at us and he said, you guys have the hard job. This is what we do is not hard. People have paid money. They want to see us. You've got to keep them there. They're looking that, you're working a room and you've got to win them over. This is the truth. You got to win them over. You got to keep them in the room and they got to drink. Yeah. Because that's what is going to keep you that job.
Exactly. And I would think it would also be an equally difficult task to be, say, the opening band for a famous band. Like, say that you were actually opening for Billy Joel.
Oh, yeah.
You've got to be like, I know that you don't really care about us. I know that you want Billy, but we're going to be here and he's not going to come out for another 45 minutes. So you might as well enjoy it while you can.
You can imagine that. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
I've opened up, Tom and I opened up for the Gatlin Brothers about 2 or 3 years ago, but again, that was different. It was in this area. So there were about 950 people at that concert. It was a good concert. And we did like 20 minutes. It wasn't a big deal, but can you imagine? I remember seeing Level 42. They opened up for Tina Turner.
Okay.
Level 42 was a fantastic band. All right. A fantastic band. And people could have cared less. And they're playing an hour set and people were roaming. They could care less. Great band.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing even Santana opening up for, I'm trying to remember who they opened up for. But I mean, I think Santana opened up for, this is in the 90s even. The Santana opened up for Mick Jagger for the Rolling Stones.
Oh, wow. That's a weird combination.
I know. It was really strange. It was awesome, though. And that was a little bit different because Santana had been, obviously been around for years and did have, I think they came out with Smooth or something like that.
Oh, yeah, he was more of a songwriter, a performer back then, whereas now what he's doing at the House of Blues here in Vegas is a lot more just jamming.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that was one of the only concerts I've ever walked out of because, for one, the sound was not good. So when the percussion is overdriving the famous guitar player, that's a problem. But also, I didn't really think that the jams were going anywhere. It was like they just kept playing, but they weren't building to anything. It was not interesting to listen to. But that was the one night that I went.
That's so funny. I hate that kind of stuff. I'm like, the never-ending solos and the never-ending.
Yeah, jams are only fun when you're in the band.
Right. Exactly.
Or if you look back at the 70s when bands would go on these like 10-minute tirades of guitar solos and keyboard solos and stuff. But I have to ask you a follow-up question to all of this. Was there ever a time when you were working at SeaWorld and there was a guy rubbing himself?
No.
Okay, good, because that would really be weird.
Yes, that's a combination that doesn't. But I did see it. I did see a couple of things. Okay, first of all, on my birthday that year that I worked there doing that, I got a call from Human Resources backstage.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and I'm like, "Hi, it's Human Resources. We want to know if somebody's got a vendetta against you." I'm like, "What?" Well, this woman walked up to us and she had this card and she wrote all around the card about how horrible you were and how, oh my God, how could you have this entertainer? And oh my God, she's saying about the devil. It was like shake, rattle, and roll. There's like, I was like, seriously, like really? Wow. And so that was really weird. And they blew it off because it was like, please, it's like, this person's insane. Yeah. Okay. And once had, there at SeaWorld, I saw one of the whales that we were working. All of a sudden, all these emergency bells are going off and all the trainers are running to one of the pools. And we had just finished a show and they were doing some things. And there was a whale that actually jumped over the window.
Oh, wow. What do you do? I mean, you can't just pick them up and move them. No,
it took a team, of course, of guys to pick him. This blue, I think it was I'm trying to remember what kind of whale it was. But anyway, it wasn't a killer whale. It wasn't that. It was just, is there such a thing as a bubble whale? Am I getting this right?
Like a beluga whale?
Yeah, like a beluga whale or something like that.
I like the idea of a bubble whale though. I want to know what that is.
A bubble whale. You have to understand that I have my own language.
That's quite okay. Yeah.
I'm going to say beluga, but I was thinking beluga might be something you eat.
Well, it sounds like a cheese.
Like, right. So I'll have a chicken and beluga sandwich, please.
Right. Like a beluga and caviar or, something.
Yeah, something like that. So I didn't want to sound, but now that I think bubble sounds really weird, but in my mind, actually, it would make sense. I once said to a couple of business partners, I said, we were working around the clock, and I said, we all have to decompose. And what I meant was decompress.
Decompress, yes. Well, but you're absolutely right, unless you get cremated. You got to tell Dev about the bubble whale though, because she's got to use that in a story somewhere.
She will. Yeah, like beluga caviar. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
great.
Exactly.
Right? Doesn't that sound like a real thing?
It does sound like a real thing.
It does. So I don't know. I live on a different planet.
But that's what creators do, right? That's what it is we make things out of a blank canvas and we come up with things because nothing existed before somebody created it.
True. Like Seinfeld, a show about nothing.
Exactly.
But then was something.
And I think they did okay.
Yeah, that's right. And anyway, the thing with the whale, that was a mess, but the whale was fine. But
Good.
It took 10 of them to put it on a big stretcher and put it back into, back into the bowl,
Right. Yeah. And they've only got so much time because they can't survive on land for very long.
Yeah, no, it was scary, but the whale was fine. And I have to say that SeaWorld is awesome. They have great technicians. They have great, there are people behind the scenes of SeaWorld that really do care, and they're really good.
That's great.
All the doctors, we call them veterinarians if you're working on a whale.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that.
An animal doctor, sure.
An animal doctor, yeah. So anyway, yeah. So, but I've seen so many weird things. I've been in every possible situation. I remember working during the Del Mar races, because the Del Mar kind of comes alive around September because they have the Del Mar horse races. Mm-hmm. And so the clubs will hire all kinds of musicians. And I worked as singles in different clubs, nice places, And I had a duo, and we were working this party, and there was a retaining wall around the area that we were in. I don't know why would you keep a retaining wall. I don't know what that was all about. Mm. And so, maybe because they would sometimes have a singer, kind of like a piano bar kind of thing.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But it was open. So you could also set up in that area, and they would move the piano away or whatever. So anyway, we're there, and this was a party for singles, and they were drinking like fishes. And this one guy decides he's going to get up on the retaining wall. I knew it was going to happen. We were performing, and I could just see what was going to happen. And sure enough, he did. He fell right towards us, beers flying everywhere, all over our equipment. We had to stop everything, of course. I mean, you just go like, why do people do things like that?
Right.
I mean, and it was like a very large man, like very wide, with a beer in his hand, trying to walk this retaining wall, probably trying to show off for a girl.
Oh, yeah.
And then I had one time a guy fell on me. I was working.
What?
Yeah, I was working in a place, was a big dance room, very popular. It was actually a boat. It was called the Reuben E. Lee, right there on the water, docked, didn't go anywhere. And it was a restaurant, 2 different restaurants, one upstairs and one in the main floor. And on one side was the restaurant, and the other side was this really cool nightclub. And and I worked there many times with my own bands and then fronting another band. I'm fronting another band, okay? Mm-hmm. And this is like packed, and there's this very large guy. And I go out the dance floor, and all of a sudden, I'm seeing it happen. He's coming towards me, and he falls, accidentally, of course, on top of me. I continue singing. I look up, and my head is at the feet of one of the 2 players. And he just looks down at me with no sense of humor. I thought it was absolutely hysterical, but I didn't get hurt or anything like that. But
good.
That's crazy, got back up, and continued, but it was just that was wild.
Well, and that's the thing, is that at the end of the day, when you're a performer, unless it's something extreme, and, out here at some of the Cirque du Soleil shows, they've had extreme injuries that have stopped the shows before, but the show has to go on, and you just, if you break a bone, you're like Meatloaf broke his leg, and he was still out there making a show, a big festival he was doing the next day.
Oh yeah.
And he wasn't in a wheelchair. It's, you do what you have to do. And I
do what you have to do. Yeah. And that's the other thing, people don't realize that, I've worked many times very ill, or, really, really sick. And I've worked in situations where you have an impediment, something's going on with your leg, and, you're doing high kicks and you're running around, and people just don't know. They don't know that you have to show up. I mean, it's just the way it is.
Well, that's why I became a drummer, so I don't have to do high kicks.
Yes, but the only thing is you've got to get all that gear together every time you tear down and set up, and it's like, my God, you could have been a doctor.
Yes, and I had a huge, huge kit at one point. It was 6 rack toms, 2 floor toms, 2 bass drums, a snare, a buttload of cymbals. It was ridiculous. It was a good hour to set it up every time. And
right.
As I got older, I'm like, I don't need all of this.
Exactly. But even still, you've got all those trap cases.
Oh yeah. Well, and I loved playing drums from a more melodic standpoint. So it was important for me to have a variety of cymbals and a variety of rack toms to play off of, because I wanted a sort of melodic range as a drummer, and not just something that thumped.
Right.
Well, I got a couple more questions for you, if you don't mind.
No, I don't mind. mind.
It's interesting. I was listening to a recent episode of the Deep Purple podcast where they were talking about a time when Rod Evans and his crew were going out and performing as Deep Purple. And this was when Deep Purple was kind of not a band anymore. And one of the things that's kind of always been a bit of a debate when bands go back out on tour, like I just saw John Legend and the Moody Blues, but he was the only member of the Moody Blues that was there. And, at what point is the band not that band? When you pay your money to go see the Moody Blues, you expect certain things. And if there's only one guy and they don't tell you it's only one guy, like where is the line for what is proper and where is the line where it's like, you really can't call it that anymore?
Yeah. Well, I kind of think this. Maybe it's about the person that's the most famous in that band. I don't know. Because when I think about, for instance, you have your single artists like Paul McCartney. Okay, Paul McCartney goes out. It's Paul McCartney and Wings. Okay, but that band changes and they're all really young probably now. And he's like the only original, obviously he's Paul McCartney, but I know what you're talking about. You're saying if there's only one or two people left in a band, how do you are all the Beach Boys together? I don't know. I mean, isn't there somebody there that's missing, or what about,
right?
There's plenty of bands from the 60s where they'll go out and they're not the same people. So it's like more like a franchise than it is actually a real band. That is kind of weird, I have to say. And
if there's only one guy left, I mean, they still have the right to the name. They have the right to, it's their band. Right. But it just seems like people are not accepting, or if you change, like, let's say that the guitar player or the singer is the most famous person in the band, and they leave that band, and the band is like, well, you know what, we're not breaking up. We're just going to get another singer, and that'll be who the new incarnation of this band is. And then there's people that accept it, and there's people that will go and throw beer bottles at them. I don't know. It's such a weird thing. But I think if you get to the point where there's no members of the band that were in the original band, that's where it kind of starts to get. Yeah, like Steppenwolf, I think, was one of those bands, and there's been several others that have carried on. Where it's like there's nobody in the band that was part of the creation of this. But then is that wrong if it's the people that took over? Maybe they've been in the band 20 or 30 years. Do they now have the right to carry on the name?
I don't know. I think that's strange. Personally, I think that's really...
I think so too.
Just think I kind of think like there's some weird thing there about that. It's like, who's running that band then? Right. Is it a manager? Is it somebody who's exploiting the name? I think there's something about that doesn't feel right to me.
Well, when we get to the point where Steppenwolf has been on tour for 93 years, I think
that's absurd, right?
Exactly.
Really.
But I mean, I kind of like when I saw John Legend in the Moody Blues a few months ago. It was kind of weird because I thought there's not the connection to the songs that they're performing. Yes, it's more of a cover band that has a guest of one of the original members than it is actually that band that I'm seeing.
Yeah, that's strange. I think that's weird to me. I don't know. I wouldn't go to a concert like that. It's strange.
And I'm definitely not sold on this hologram thing either.
It feels like a tribute band. That's how it feels to me.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, none of you are the real players. Okay. I think that's kind of a tribute band. That doesn't feel like, to me, just because you own the name, it's not the band.
Right.
So if there's not one member there that belongs from the original band, that feels like a tribute band to me.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way, and it's really interesting to see but it really, I think it all comes down to the corporate machine probably more than anything else.
Oh yeah, someone owns that name. It's like, ugh, I don't know.
That's my gentle segue into my real question for you.
Boy! Oh my God! Okay.
Well, so as bands change members and their writing influences change dramatically. Their sound changes dramatically. people will also do the same thing. They'll be like, well, that's not the same band. Well, no, it's not. It's different members that have come in and they're putting their influence on this band or that band. And, if a singer goes out and you get a new singer, well, now it's that new singer has their style and their writing and performance. You and I have a very big challenge that we face, and that is in the fact that because we do so many different things, it's very difficult for us to define our sound as artists. And especially as you get more into sync licensing and you become known for that, you're going to be writing stuff that isn't your sound, that isn't what you would perform.
Right.
How do you go about defining yourself as an artist when you have your hands in murder mystery dinners, theater, musicals, your rock and roll music, you do so many different things. How do you kind of package all that?
Well, that is a great question. Thank you for asking that. First of all, when I was going out for a recording contract in the late 80s, early 90s, I was going out as an artist. A lot of hit misses and whatnot. And there was a sound that I was working on. Although I've always been a songwriter, so I still was writing all different kinds of genres. And that was posed to me many, many times. Like, well, what are you? You're blues or you're rock? You say you're writing country too. It's like, well, yeah, because I am a songwriter. I'm a creative, and I've never liked being in a box of this is who you are. Unfortunately, the business always wants to do that. That seems to be something that, it's kind of a crazy thing to me, because I think that the arts is really about being creative. Why does it have to be one thing or you're another? How about if you're able to do it? If you're able, that's why I really respect someone like Lady Gaga, who can sing standards, and she can turn around and just all of a sudden she can sing a song from Sound of Music. And then she turns around and now she's doing some rock and roll thing. I love that. I love being a chameleon. That's part of what I love. That's my passion too, is that I like to be able to do all the things that I love to do. And so recently I had somebody who basically I had submitted a song to, and I put a little cover and had this feeling that there could have been a connection with that individual, which I was very wrong. They did not get me at all.
Oh.
And it was like, wow. The email came back sort of like, well, wait a second. You just did a heavy metal song and now you're sending me a country song. So like, what are you? I mean, what do you really do? I mean, like, why are you? I mean, you'd be better off picking one if you're going to be. Can I just say, I mean, she treated me like I was new in the business. I thought, wow, this woman did not get me at all, which is fine. It's like everybody has a right to their opinion and not everyone is going to get you. So my answer to your question is this. I make a living in the music and acting industry. I'm not Meryl Streep at this moment,
right?
Because I'm never going to be Meryl Streep, because Meryl Streep's Meryl Streep,
right?
But my point, I'm just using it as an example. I'm not some famous movie star, and that's not necessarily what I'm after. To be honest, I'm really about the work, wanting to do great projects, wanting to stretch out creatively on teams. And, I am an artist, a single artist, and I also work with a few other people. You mentioned Dev, and together we're the Two Lucys. And that's a beautiful thing because we are a comedy team, but we also do drama. Someone might go, well, wait a minute, you're doing drama? Aren't you comedians? No, we are who we are, and we are creators, and that's just what you get, you know. And then when Tom and I are working together, that's a product. And we do what we do together. And then when I'm alone, I just like doing all of it. I like to on Sunday, these guys were pretty much like, you got to come sing with us. You have to come, we'll make you a guest artist. We've got to sing it. This music is like stuff like Autumn Leaves. It's completely different than what I've been doing. And I haven't sung that stuff for a really long time. And some of it I've never sung, but I like that. I like to stretch out and I really enjoy it. And that's who I am. Yeah. And I've kind of come to terms with, hey, you either get me or you don't. And I'm not, I'm not in an age category. in my 20s. So I'm not really looking to be the next rock star. That's not, can I do it? Yeah, I actually can. And I actually can run around stage and be crazy and wild and want to do all these wonderful things. Is it feasible marketing wise? Probably not in today's market. That's probably not where I'm going to be focused, because let's get real. Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm not
Yeah.
20s. And now they want you to be even, like more like 20, not even in your 20s, which is fine. It's a different kind of market.
But it's interesting, though, especially in rock and roll, because you've got the people from the 60s and the 70s that are still going out there and playing. I mean, Alice Cooper just had a huge hit with his last album. Deep Purple had a huge hit. Uriah Heep did very well with their last album. And you look at it and you go, rock and roll is not about youth. It's about people that have that mentality, that enjoy that music.
Yes.
To some people it's, well, you have to wear leather. To other people it's, well, you have to have a tattoo. But at the end of the day, it's about people that love rock and roll music.
Yes. And so I would say to you, I love it. I love that. And I love all the other stuff that I get to do. One of the things that is fun about what I get to do and what I'm always endeavoring to do is to be able to use all of my talents. So I have an acting background and I love acting. So when something comes up and is presented to me, I'm going to look at that. I'm going to look at who is involved and make a conscious decision. Do I want to do this? And I love songwriting. And when any kind of a project that comes my way, if it's about songwriting, I'm going to do the exact same thing.
Right.
I like building my own shows. I like being in other people's shows too. But the same thing. I've gotten to that point where I go, well, you can really look at this. How do it feel? Do I'm going to enjoy this? That's become a part of it. But because I do this for a living, the versatility is actually advantageous for me.
Right.
If I'm going out there to Hollywood, it probably isn't. At one point it would be, but I would have to become well known in order to go into a different area of what I do. That's the beautiful thing. I always bring up Lady Gaga because I so much honor her. I think that this is one hell of a talent. This gal is the real deal.
Yeah.
She's got the skills, she has the talent, and she has a pretty decent business acumen, obviously, to do what she's been doing. And the thing is that she has been able to, she shows up at the Academy Awards and she sings this song and from Sound of Music, The Hills Are Alive, song, and here's Julie Andrews coming out. And then you say to yourself, Hollywood is so Hollywood. I mean, she hasn't exactly gotten a Broadway show yet.
True.
It's like they just can't buy it. I don't know. I did. I went, oh my dear God, that woman is outstanding. And they stood up for her. And maybe it was that actually caught the attention of the people that for A Star Is Born. I don't know.
And the other thing that I love about her is that she uses her celebrity to endorse change and make a better world too, with the work that she's done with the gay and lesbian communities.
Right.
I mean, she doesn't just say, well, I'm an inaccessible, successful celebrity. No. She's like, I'm going to take this opportunity and do something with it. And I really admire that.
Yeah. And I think that, I love making a positive difference with all that I'm doing. If I can make somebody laugh, if I can do something that makes a difference. You told me a story earlier off of this interview, and I'm going to give you a story.
Okay.
So I was singing, I'm trying to think. Tom and I were doing a show, and it was at a community center here. And there was a gentleman sitting in the audience, and I remember thinking, I'm going to go up and I'm going to sing to him. And I did. And this was a nonprofit organization that was doing this, if I remember right, it was kind of a caring kind of organization that they sponsored it. They bought us, they hired us basically. And we did this show for people that, I don't know, they were like doing good deeds for these folks. They weren't elderly or anything like that. It was just a whole mix of different people and different circumstances. And so we did the show. So anyway, I went up and I sang the song to this guy. And afterwards, we were done. And the person in charge came up to me and Tom, and she said, you have no idea. That gentleman that you sang to, that guy, we've been very worried about him. This
Really?
guy's we've been worried that he was going to take his own life and this and that. And what you did for him in that moment was so awesome. And I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I just felt the pull to go there. Well, that's the whole thing about live entertainment that I love. I love those moments where you can make a difference for one person. And that coming back so that you can actually hear that. When you're doing a really large concert, you don't get the opportunity necessarily to know how you've moved someone.
Very
you only
true.
know that you can make a difference for at least one person. And I always say this, that if you can make a difference for one person, if that's the ripple effect, that's going to make a difference for many people. So, I don't know. It's a really big deal for me to want to make a positive difference. I gift a lot of performances. I gift a lot of time and talents. Tom and I do that together like we did yesterday. And there's something really wonderful about that. And I love that. And it's a very big, if I was a big star, I know what I would do with that celebrity. I would definitely be financing things or different projects that would make a difference. And I've produced a lot of fundraisers that have made a lot of money for different organizations here. I once did I spearheaded a fundraiser for a gentleman here in town who is an entertainer, and his neighbor's house blew up and it took his house down.
Wow. And
right at the same time, on the other side of Sedona, there was a woman with her son, and she was renting a house, and that house, the fire took it down to the ground. And so when I found out about our friend, I just immediately kicked into gear because I really care about him. And then I knew that this had happened to all three of these families. And I organized. I was just like, I don't know. I believe in a higher power. So it was kind of like that. It was like, this was a universal spiritual thing, I don't even know how I did this now on looking back. But basically what happened was I called a theater here in town, a regional theater that we had at the time. And I called the executive director and I said, this is what's happening and this is what I want to do. And I see the whole thing in front of me. And she went, well, what do you mean? And I said, you've got to call the guy that owns this outlet center, and we're going to have an outdoor fair, and we're going to do this, and we're going to do that. And then we're going to have like 3 shows in the theater, and we're going to build this. We're going to make money for these people. And so the only date that Tom and I had available to do this was the 19th of June. It was on a Tuesday. I'll never forget this. And I didn't even think about it. And I created a group of people. There were about 15 of them. I delegated it. I called 2 of my dear friends and said, you need to help me with this. I need someone who can help me. And I need someone else to finance this. I keep the finances because we're going to have money coming in.
Right.
And she now happens to be the mayor of Sedona, but she was at that time I was working with her and some other things, and she's an accountant, so I knew she knew what she was doing. And she said yes, and then my other friend said yes. And so then we had like 3 meetings. It was 2 weeks, and we got it done. And we ended up making $30,000 on a Tuesday.
Whoa, that's crazy.
Each family walked away with $10,000 in their pocket. And let me tell you what this was like. It was like Tom and I were performing. We were touring a children's show that we created for the Arizona Library System. So we were doing that. And I would come home and I'd get on the computer and I would just start talking to everybody. How's this? What's going on with that? One person was in charge of all the families and getting clothing to them. Another was all about working on getting the city to be okay with this and that because we had some things we had to pay. The other was about staging. When we got to the gig, the Sedona Chamber of Commerce, who I absolutely adore, and we work with them all the time, we had worked with them. And they got us all these pop-up tents. We had the huge fair. We had tons of people because I had someone doing a bake sale. There were tons of people baking. And we had this enormous bake sale. We had all these different booths where people could come and play games and be dunked. And, we just had all these things. Tom emceed a stage outside. We had all this entertainment that I booked. And everyone did it as a gift. And then we had 3 shows in the theater. We had one that was early, like a daytime show. with other stuff going on outside. And then we had like a late afternoon was an improv show with an improv group. And then the late show, we actually sold a lot more. But like as far as it was more expensive to go to, I think it was, and it wasn't even that bad. It was like, I don't know, $30 or something a ticket. And we sold it out. And I just remember at the top of this whole morning, I thought, what are you doing? It's a Tuesday. No one's coming.
Right. Yeah.
I was thinking, and the thought came to me. It was like, Shondra, this worked out. There's a reason for it. Trust.
Right. And
so I did. And the nighttime show, we sold it out. We had the people whose homes had burned down there. The couple that the house had blown up had a family, and they had pets, and those pets were killed in that fire.
Oh.
And we put it out for the Humane Society to give them a choice of animals. Mm-hmm. We took care of these people.
Yeah.
And we had another club that was also helping out, and the combined efforts, it was $10,000 a family. And Tom and I emceed the last show. We were in it. I mean, it was an all-day event. We hardly ate, but it was so powerful to have the entire community involved. And now I look back at that and I go, how the hell did that happen? How did I do that? How did all these people come together? And it was just, it just worked. It was meant to be, you know?
Well, when you're putting it together, you're seeing the little elements come together one at a time or two or three at a time. When you're looking back on the entire production, you're trying to encapsulate all of those little elements, the thousands of things that had to happen, and making that one thing. And like, how did this one thing happen? But it's all the little subtleties and all the little, oh, okay, great. They're going to come and they'll perform. And oh, that's so nice. They're going to gift us a performance. And, those little things that come together over the course of time. But congratulations. That is just fantastic.
So thank you. And so it was the team, it's like I basically what I did was I went out on Facebook. It was emails and Facebook that I just went, here's what I'm doing. Will you say yes to this? Here's what I'm doing. I got another guy who handled some stuff. We had some problems and he was very good with talking to people. And I said, you need to handle this. I can't do this. Another guy doing all the marketing and the posters. And I worked with him one-on-one, and we got those out right away. And this happened in 2 weeks. So it was the people that I handpicked them. They said yes, and they were awesome. And then I just led the troops and was involved. I was very involved. But it was pretty darn magical. And later on, and I've done other fundraisers. Tom and I made about $11,000 for our regional theater at the time through another fundraiser. We've done a lot of giving back. But my point in telling you this story is that that's a huge proponent of why I know I can speak for both of us, he and I, of why we do what we do is to move people energetically, and to make them laugh, make them feel, make them ask questions, within themselves maybe, or their friends or whatever. Sometimes it's just about having a good time.
Right.
Tom's in the show 5 nights a week. It's the Blazing M Ranch out here at Cottonwood, and he plays the comic relief. And it's kind of a character that's become an icon out there. And he's portraying that character. They've been out there for 25 years. And Tom, I have a couple of guys that step in for him so we can do our shows when we get these bigger shows. Right. But he's been there for 14 years, and he's there 4 nights a week. And so he had someone come up to him, and he presented himself like, well, I was the police, I was the chief police of Jerome. And Tom's thinking, oh my God, what's he going to say to me? And he tells Tom that his aunt's last dying wish was to go to that ranch and have Tom's character, he portrays, pick on her and sing to her. And it happened. And that's the kind of stuff that makes your heart sing. You go like, oh my God, like that makes a difference. So I just, that's the other part, the other side of this. So when I think to myself, would I trade that if I had to trade that out for, if I couldn't, let's put it this way, if I couldn't do that kind of stuff, like really make a difference, it just wouldn't be the same at all.
Oh, you know? Yeah. And those are the things that you can't plan that. You can't,
Yeah.
You can't orchestrate it. Those are moments that just happen from you naturally doing what you do and love, and finding those people that, you really just touch with your work.
Yeah. So I get to do those things.
Which is
so when
awesome.
someone says it is awesome, so it's like such a gift for me to be able to say, hey, that's happening, and to be able to hear about it is even more fun, of course. And I just remember when I was a kid, when someone on the stage was singing and you thought they were singing to you, how that felt, and it made a difference for me. And you only hope that you can do that, whether you're coaching or you're performing or songwriting a song that somebody really, it touches their heart and they come up and tell you or whatever. I mean, so when somebody says to me, well, you got to pick one genre, you got to do this, you got to find your niche. Well, I have found my niche. My niche it's just basically who I am, I guess.
Yeah.
Is that I love to do all of these things. They're all really different, and I don't love one more than the other. I just am enjoying it. I don't like certain things that you have to deal with at times.
Sure.
But that kind of goes with the territory of any job that you have.
Oh, yeah.
And, it's so funny. Somebody like me might go, well, yeah, but I'm not a big star. So I don't know. Have I made it? And then you go somewhere like Ireland and someone's going, oh my God, you're making a living as a musician and an actor. You've made.
Right. Yeah. Well,
it's all a matter of perspective, right?
Yeah, everybody has their different concept of what success is. To me, there's the level of I finished something that I set out to do, whether it's a song or an album or a book. That is its own level of success, the fact that it just got completed. Then there's the level of, this needs to go out to the world and let people do with it what they will. That's a level of success of actually taking it from a completed thing to now it's out there for people to hopefully connect with and enjoy. Then there's the commercial level of success, which is obviously, well, I made my money back. And then there's the other level, which is I made a ton of money on this or whatever it's going to be. But I think the first connection with success is just finishing something.
Yes, that. And I also think that contribution is huge. I've come to realize that when everybody and everyone is going to pass at one point, really, when it comes down to it in that moment, it's going to not be about the money so much as it is about what did you do that made a positive difference. And artists like yourself, like my compadres that are so talented around me, and anything that I get to do, I think in the end, we really want to make a positive difference. That's the success to me, is to be able to know that you touched somebody and you made a difference for them. And I think that's really the key, isn't it? It's really not about the award or about the things that change. Like all this stuff out here is so ever changing. It's like a changing parade. Someone's on top, someone's not. Someone's got the awards, now it's someone else. Oh, it's just a passing parade. Somebody is the big deal, and then all of a sudden they're tearing them down. It's like it's very unpredictable, and it's not real. It's most of it, as you put it earlier, is marketing. It's spinning it. It's all those things. But what is real is your contribution. What is real is your heart and your intention and what is behind the projects you're doing. How do you feel and why are you doing that?
Right.
And hopefully you find your way into it where you can also survive financially and maybe more, maybe more. Maybe you get to really do really, really well while you're doing all of that and enjoy it that way too.
Exactly. Just to let you know, though, if I ever do die, and I suppose at some point that will happen, I have planned to continue along in hologram form where people can watch me sit at my studio and write either relaxation or horror music, depending on what button they press.
Well, there you go. I mean, see, you have found a solution to the situation.
That's right.
Mortality. I'm loving this. You're immortal.
Yes. If they can have a Ronnie James Dio hologram, why not a Scott Haskin hologram? Or maybe I'll do a podcast one too.
That's right. And I'll tell you what, it's probably feasible because by the time you might leave the planet, which will probably be in another 80 years.
Oh my God.
Okay, so they will have that kind of technology. And then, because like, what are you, like 25?
Oh God, I wish. They need to record me now though before I start breaking down even more. And
That's hysterical.
Well, so with all these amazing experiences that you have and this beautiful outlook, which I love, and I'm so grateful to call you a friend, because I think you're just such a dynamic and talented person.
Thank you so much.
What
it's mutual, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. Where do you want this all to head next? What's kind of the outlook for you over the next couple of years?
Well, what I am looking to do right now is I still want to perform. In a perfect world, this is what it would be. I would have some of my songs placed in sync deals. Mm-hmm. I would be working on some films, perhaps as an actor, a character actor. I would love to be doing some stage work in my own shows, like Hot Flashes on the Trail, or we've got 2 more that we're working on. We have
good.
We're writing a new musical. We're writing right now. I've got to write songs to a small musical that's actually, hopefully, will have big effects. This is going to tour middle schools, and it will help give kids tools to come to the table and talk and be able to deal with conflict, kind of a conflict resolution kind of show.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah, it's really fun. We already have the cast. Happy to say they're students and kids that both Deb and I have worked with too together. And we've already had the read. The script is fabulous. She wrote a great script, and now I'm writing about 6 songs for that. And we already have people that are working on building a nonprofit for us so that we can get this out. So we're excited about that. Yeah. And we already have our school supervisor here wanting to have this show tour in this area. So I've just got to write the songs. So I'm doing that. But we also have another musical that we're going to be working on right after this one. And this is a pretty big one. And what I love to see this be picked up. I would just love it. I mean, that would be a real dream. So I'm focused on writing songs for sync licensing, collaborating. I would still love, there's a part of me, I have to admit, going back to New York was like, oh my God, I just miss that town so badly. Not that I want to move there, no, but boy, oh howdy, would I love to work in theater there.
Oh, sure.
I would love to do that.
It's a great theater town.
Yeah, it's just a fabulous town, and I love theater. That is a huge love of mine. So I would say the same of what I'm doing, but in bigger projects.
I like that.
Bigger financial rewards. That's how I would put it.
Yeah.
My dream is to get those musicals produced and published, and my new songs being licensed in sync deals, and just a lot of performing.
Let's make it happen.
Oh, and I do want to say this, since I am a voiceover artist, I would love to be doing some work with that in film, and mainly with animation. I would love that, because I have a million characters, and just love doing that stuff. And I've had my share of it. I've done quite a bit. I haven't done any animation work on a bigger scale. Mm-hmm. I've done some things, like I did an audiobook about bees. I got to play all these different bees. It was all meant towards teaching children about the importance of bees.
Wow.
And it's an adorable book. It's an audiobook, and there were songs and a whole story, and it's called the BB Jubilee or something. It's just absolutely adorable.
That's such a cool name.
It was such a fun project. And that was a great project. And I just love doing character voices. So I would love to do that too. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I wish you the absolute best in all of this, and I'm going to enjoy every moment of watching all this come to fruition.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And you're awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the show.
Yeah.
I think I talked the longest of any guest.
It's probably up there. I don't know what the longest interview I've done was, but I mean, we're right now creeping up on 2 hours and 19 minutes as I'm looking at the clock on the computer right now. And every minute has been a joy. So thank you so much for taking time out. I know you've got some music to write, as do I. So
yes, I know.
We are going to get on it.
I'm excited what you're doing, and the best to you in all that you're doing. And I want to see all your dreams coming true. And you're doing so well, and just like cheering you on all the time.
Oh, well, that means the world to me. Thank you so much, Shondra. Definitely come back and see us again. And we're going to have the links to as many things as you have links to in the show notes, and so that people can come and check it out. But definitely, if you're in the Sedona area, or if they're able to go out on tour, which is a goal, go see them. They're both amazing, amazing people, Dev and Shondra. And I don't know your husband, but I'm going to guess that he's amazing too.
He is. I'm very it's wonderful to work with him. He's a fantastic artist.
He's really got to have a lot of energy to keep up with you. That's all I can say.
True. Indeed. Yes.
I do know Dev's husband, and I know that he has the energy to keep up with her, but
yeah, Tom does keep up. Yeah, he does. And he's got his own stuff he's doing too. So he's pretty energetic himself. So
I love it. I love being around all these creative and energetic and passionate and driven and making it happen people, because there's a big difference between talking about it and doing it. And we're all out there doing it. And I love that.
It is. It's a wonderful thing. Yes. And it's inspiring to those out there who are listening. If you want to do it, you can do it. Yeah. Really. You can make it happen. Just find a way to get yourself out there. I always say, show up. It wasn't, right. Who was it that said it's 80% of life is showing up? And it's so true.
I know that phrase. I don't know who said it, but it's very wise.
I think it was Woody Allen, actually. I remember reading that. It's like amazing to me. It was Woody Allen, but consider what a talent he is.
Yeah.
Maybe kind of some personal things, but hey, everybody's got personal stuff. And, this guy was a mover and a shaker when he was really doing his thing out there, a pioneer in comedy and film. And he was right. 80% of life is showing up.
And I'm a firm believer that if you just say enough things, sooner or later, one of them will be a gem.
True. Yes, you're probably right.
That's why I do this show.
Like Bubble Whale.
Bubble Whale. Exactly.
I actually looked it up. Okay. I'm just saying. I just looked it up.
Yeah.
And I guess there is a toy called a Bubble Whale.
Really? I shouldn't be surprised. It just sounds cute.
It does sound cute. And there's a bubble making machine with a whale.
Yes.
I mean, so where did they get the bubble whale from then? If they're calling it a bubble whale, there has to be an actual bubble whale.
I think that we should dig into this. I'm curious now.
It's a great way to end the show, isn't it?
It really is.
Looking for a whale that is called a bubble whale.
Yes, and if you spot one, send us pictures.
Perfect. I have a bubble blowing whale that I could show you that. That would be good.
A friend of mine let me borrow her, like a T-ball, but it was shaped like a sea creature, and it was called a manatee, TEA.
That's good.
I love it. Well, Shondra, you come and visit us anytime. Your energy is unbelievable, and I know it's just going to continue to grow and grow. So keep at it. Get those sync licenses going.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You just keep doing what you're doing, because you're doing great.
Well, thank you so much. I will do my best. Take care, Shondra.
Take care. Thanks, Scott, so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, isn't she awesome? Take some time, go watch the video of her song. The show is in the show links. You can also link to her in the many links that we have. And she's got so many great things going on. Go check her out. She's an absolutely wonderful person, whether you like her as a musician, as an actor, or as a musician and actor. She's absolutely dynamic, very, very talented. I'm very honored to call her my friend. And thank you guys for tuning in to another episode. I will be back next week with another episode, and then we'll have a couple of special episodes coming up if all goes well. Thanks, guys. Cheers.